morning, children. In the previous class, we have started with the first chapter of history, the French Revolution. So let's have a quick review of what we have done. We have studied how King Louis XVI, he spent lot of expenses on his personal privileges, how the treasury became empty, and then he divided the French society into three. First was the nobles, second clergy, and third was the normal people like artisans, traders, merchants, etc. And we also studied that the first and the second estate, they were exempted from taxation. But the third estate, they had to pay various taxes. And for every harvest, they have to pay 10%. And on loans also, various interest was charged. Now, today we'll continue with the chapter. Today we are going to study the outbreak of the revolution and France becomes a constitutional monarchy. So in the first topic, we'll see how the third estate, who were very angry with the treatment which has been done to them, and how they revolted against the first and the second estate, and also against King Louis XVI. Then finally they decided that they will frame a constitution for the people of France, and limit the power of King Louis XVI. So let's continue with the explanation. So children, we have seen that King Louis XVI imposed the taxes on the third estate, but still he wanted to further impose taxes to meet the expenses of the state as the economy was going down, and the taxes were imposed on the third estate only. So what did he do? He set up a meeting of the estate general, and the last meeting which was held was in the year 1614, and in the meeting he wanted to decide to raise the taxation policy. So on 5th May 1789, he called together an assembly of the Estates General to pass proposals for new taxes. Children, one thing I forgot to tell you, that he could not have the power, that is King Louis does not have the power to impose taxes according to his own will. Rather, he had to call a meeting of the Estates General to pass proposals for new taxes. So, on 5th May 1789, he called for the meeting of the Estates General at Versailles, and in that meeting 300 members of the first estate and 300 members of the second estate were called for, and 600 members of the third estate were called for. But those 600 members, no entry was given to them. And children, do you know, third estate, the members were farmers, artisans, artists, and even females were there. But they were not allowed to enter the assembly and be participant in the meeting. So again the people, they became very angry. And then the Estate General, that is on 5th May 1789, he had the policy each estate one vote. But what was the demand of the third estate? They demanded one vote for all members of the assembly. And this raised the anger. Why? Because this demand of one member, one vote was not fulfilled, and they also thought that if the first and the second estate they held the meeting, they will protest, the third estate will protest, because then they will raise the taxes and it will be imposed on the third estate only. So what did they do? They boycotted the assembly in protest, and they held their meeting in the hall of an indoor tennis court at Versailles, and they declared themselves the National Assembly. So they wanted, as I have told you just now, that they demanded one member, one vote, and they changed the system. And they also boycotted the assembly, and they held their meeting in the hall in an indoor tennis court, and they declared themselves as the National Assembly. Now what happened? The people, they all were united, that is the people of the third estate, they were quite united, and they held the meeting and they decided, they were very angry, and they decided that until the right one member one vote was given, they will not leave here. But the Estate General King Louis, they were not ready to accept this proposal, and meanwhile the rest of the France was facing a turmoil, because a bread harvest led to increase in bread prices and hoarding. Children, one thing I want to tell you, that the bread is the staple food of the France, and due to the rise in prices, the price of bread was also increasing, and crowds of angry women stormed the shops. So there were rumors that the landlords had hired some people to destroy the ripened crops. So the peasants, they attacked them, looting and burning the documents containing records of all the taxation policies. Finally, the king agreed to a constitutional monarchy rule. So, on 20th June 1789, the people, they decided that they will frame their own constitution. As they became the National Assembly, they named themselves as the members of the National Assembly, and they were very much angry, they were full of anger, and they decided that they will not leave the indoor stadium until and unless they will frame the constitution for their country. And they took an oath, they took a pledge that we won't quit, it's done. So on 20th June 1789, they were not ready to leave the stadium of the indoor stadium of the tennis court. They decided that unless and until the constitution is framed for the country, they will not leave the stadium. And then came the two leaders to support them. One was Mirabeau and the other was Abbassies. Mirabeau was born in second estate, and Abbassies, he was a priest, but belonging to the second estate and first estate, they supported the National Assembly members, and then they also joined hands with these people, the members of the National Assembly. And Abbassies, he wrote a book. The name of the book is What is the Third Estate? And the people, they were very united, and even these two leaders, they also joined with the members of the National Assembly. Now King Louis has no option just to surrender himself with these, because the people, they were very much angry, they were full of anger, and they wanted that their powers should now be separated and assigned to different institutions. So, the King Louis XVI on 14th July 1789, he became helpless, and he has to surrender himself to the National Assembly, as the people, they came together on the streets and they started attacking on the policies and programs of King Louis XVI. Then King Louis has no other option just to surrender himself to the members of the National Assembly, and he started finding ways and measures to save his life and to quit from there and to save his life from the angered mob. And then the king surrendered himself. Now, when he surrendered himself to the National Assembly, what were the changes that took place? The changes were no more privileges were given to first and the second estate. Powers of the monarch was reduced. Land was redistributed, and tithe, that is the direct tax, ended. So, when King Louis XVI surrendered himself to the National Assembly, these all changes took place in France. And finally, on 4th August 1789, he surrendered himself, and these changes, they took place, and National Assembly framed its own constitution, and monarchy changed into the constitutional monarchy. And children, you might be wondering what happened to Louis XVI. Louis XVI was sentenced to death by a court on the charge of treason. So, what is the meaning of treason? That is ditching or betraying our own country. Now, you might be thinking, what is the meaning of monarchy changing into constitutional monarchy? Children, in the very first class, I have told you monarchy means the king rule. So, when the National Assembly drafted its own constitution for the country, they limited the powers and functions of monarchy. That is, he should no more take the decision on its own. Instead, the powers should be divided amongst the people, amongst legislature, executive, and that is what the powers of monarchy changed into constitutional monarchy. That is, whatever powers and functions were given to him, that were limited, and it was all given by the people in the constitution. So, that is the meaning of constitutional monarchy. So, children, I should end my today's class with a saying, push yourself, because no one else is going to do it for you, which means that you have to push yourself, you have to say that yes, I have to do and I can do. So, you have to start studying to complete your lessons, to complete your copies, to get the success in your life, because children, it is only you who can do it. No one else can do for you on your behalf. Only you can do and you can achieve success in your life. So, that's all for today, children. Have a good day and try to read and understand the chapter.